This is a Voyescape podcast. You can find all of our travel podcasts from around the world at voyescape.com.
Straddling the line between Europe and Asia and a place where East truly meets West. This city of 15 million people, the largest city in Turkey, is a place you have to see to believe. This week we're talking about Istanbul. David, how you doing this week?
I'm doing great, Tim. And yeah, Istanbul, somewhere I was about 2 months ago now. And I have to say, it really, you'd given me a lot of good insider tips before I got there. It is a city that very much lived up to expectations. Amazing architecture, historical landmarks, a thriving food scene. It is a city that's got a lot going for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it is really one of my favorite cities in the whole world. I have a few places that if I have an extra few days and I don't quite know what to do with it, it depends obviously on where I am already in the world, I'll just go there. And so Istanbul is one of those cities for me. You know, if something else falls through and I think, oh, where should I go? I go to Istanbul because great air connections. Turkish Airlines is a great airline. And there's always something new and different in the city to do. You're never going to run out of things. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Let's start with that today. Let's talk a little bit about the what to do.
Yeah.
And you spent a lot more time than I have. I mean, I had a 3-day deep dive there, but you've been a number of times. What are your top few things to do when you get to town?
I mean, I love going to the spice market. You know, I think there's about 200 stalls in the spice market, and every single one of them is home to a character. There are so many interesting people who work these individual little shops in the spice market. I mean, from the minute last time I was there was in the spring, and it was pouring rain. It was just an awful day this one day. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go hang out in the spice market. And from the moment you walk in off the street, you know, drenching rain, cold, unpleasant, you walk in there, it's warm. You've got the smell of all the spices. They're making tea, you know, and it is just this sensory overload in all the best ways. And then you walk down, and each of the sellers wants you to come in, try their spice blend, try their tea. They're happy to chat with you about where you're from and what you're doing here, and they want to provide you with a really nice experience. So I really love this. Yeah.
The spice market too. One of the things I loved about it is like a great place for photography. You've got these amazing contrasting colors with all the spices piled up in front of all the vendors. The one thing I will say though, it is like the Olympics of haggling, and if you're thinking you're getting a good deal, you're not going to get a good deal at the spice market. It's like
you are not. No, you know that's a given. You know, that's I sometimes I buy something, but a lot of times I don't. I just go for the experience. And sometimes I'll even tell them. I'll say right off the bat, I'll say I'm just here for the experience. I'm just walking around, and a lot of the time they'll say no problem. You know, we're happy to have you, but you're not. I mean, there is. I mean, I do enjoy haggling. It's one of the things that, you know, a lot of Westerners don't necessarily love, but, you know, you set your base price, you don't divert from that, and be willing to walk away, and sometimes you'll get a good deal, but you're right, most of the times you will not get a deal. The other thing I'll say, you asked for my top two, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later in the episode, and I believe also in our bonus episode, but just to touch on it a little bit now, I love to take a ferry. I mean, the city is bisected by the Bosphorus. You know, it's this waterway that divides Europe and Asia. Sea of Marmara with the Med, I believe, on the south drains, I believe, the Black Sea. I may be getting too deep into the weeds here and might be wrong, but hop on a ferry. It's going to cost you a couple of bucks, and get a little cup of Turkish tea. That's going to cost you like 50 cents, and the whole city it just surrounds you, you know, and you get a sense of the density and the size and just the unique character. If you're out there, I've been out there when the call to prayer happens from the minarets, and that is really, truly a special experience to get on a boat, leave Europe, go to Asia, and go to an amazing restaurant. This is a teaser for our bonus episode. Go to an amazing restaurant that has a million stories. And we're going to talk about that in the bonus episode.
I mean, I like you. I love the Spice Market, the Blue Mosque, which is very nearby there. I mean, with the iconic blue tiles, grand design, very much architectural marvel that I think you need to see. All in that same district. I mean, that historic part of the city has a lot going on. And one of the things that we really enjoyed, a Turkish bath that we went to, we looked at a lot of different options for Turkish baths, and we found one that was very affordable and very historic as well. It's pronounced, I believe, Kadirka Hamam. It's one of the least expensive yet authentic hammams in that historic district, where you can get a traditional Turkish bath experience for only about 25 euros. That was very unique. And I know we're going to talk a bit more about the Turkish bath experience in our bonus episode as well, and what that's all about. Yeah. Another place that I think you had recommended to me, or definitely a friend had recommended, was Basilica Cistern. Which is the underground, this ancient underground water storage cistern. Doesn't sound like that would be all that exciting to go see an underground water storage cistern, but it's beautiful. It's like these
public works,
tour.
Yeah.
It's these reflective pools, and during different times of day, they actually have like classical musicians who will come down and play, and the sound is amazing down there. You get the acoustics of it. You just hear the sound sort of booming through this amazing underground historical cistern. Totally worth doing.
Absolutely. No, I've been down there as well, and it might have been me who suggested it, but it really is cool down there. And I mean, to go from a bustling, busy city to go to kind of that relative peace of being below street level and in that cistern. There were no classical musicians when I was there. I can only imagine that was actually really, truly incredible. So that is an amazing experience. You want to talk about? We want to talk about food. Should we talk about food next? Our favorite place to eat?
Great. I mean, the food was amazing. Staying in that same part of town, right around the Blue Mosque Spice Market area. One sort of fun place that we stumbled across called Pudding Shop. Sort of a legendary spot with very deep ties to sort of the 1960s counterculture, people traveling on the hippie trail. It's a great place to go for a Turkish breakfast or as the name suggests, a pudding. That was kind of a fun spot. And Turkish breakfast, I would say that's like, that's a must do, is to get like an authentic Turkish breakfast when you're in the city, and lots of great places to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any place that jump out for you? I know one of them you were telling me a bit about was in also one of your favorite places to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love, to tie it all together, I love the Chirgan Palace. It's a Kempinski hotel. It is right on the banks of the Bosphorus. It was built by the Ottomans during, when the Ottomans had an empire until the First World War. They have a Michelin rated restaurant, which is called Tugra, and they do traditional Ottoman food. So foods that these sultans, that this royalty would have eaten, but they do it in a modernized, elevated way. And the place where you eat it, overlooking the Bosphorus, it's just so beautiful. I mean, you're sitting in Europe, you're looking into Asia. I was there basically at sunset and then into the evening, and just the sparkling lights, the boats going by on the Bosphorus. It was absolutely beautiful. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about hotels, and I want to talk a little bit more about Chirgan Palace. But I'll mention two other restaurants that I love. One is called Pendeli, which is a Bib Gourmand, which is Michelin's rating for kind of cheap and cheerful, but really worthwhile places, which is over top the Spice Market. And again, you get out of the hustle and bustle, and it's a bit of a like a retreat up there. It's quiet, and you've got these classic servers, I believe, in white coats, been there for decades. I had something called Sultan's Delight, which is a lamb stew on roasted eggplant. It was absolutely delicious. And I did a Michelin star restaurant also called Araka, which is in the northern part of the northern part of the city. You can take a ship, you can take a boat, a ferry to get up there. And I believe it was like between like a dentist and like a muffler shop. Like, it was a very unpretentious type of place, but they did this elevated, fresh Turkish food, a lot of seafood. and our Rocca was very, very good. But I don't know. You want to talk a little bit about hotels? I know you. Oh, and you had a really good experience, right? You had an evening experience that was really worthwhile. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'll mention two hotels quickly.
Okay.
We stayed at the Sheraton Istanbul, which is a very solid, option, really good buffet breakfast. A little bit out of the center of the city, but they've got a shuttle bus that runs you into that historic section. So that was a good spot. But then we were looking for somewhere to go one night, and somewhere that I could take my teenagers, and the hotel concierge suggested a place, another hotel, the Novotel, which is very centrally located, has a great rooftop bar, place called Nomads. Think of like this is going to be live Arabic music. This is going to be belly dancers. This is going to be everybody all throughout the restaurant getting up, participating. Great food, great drinks, amazing views of the city. If there's one place we were going to go, Nomads would be high on my list of sort of must sees when you're there for sure.
Fantastic. That's on my list now too.
You were telling me a bit about the hotel. You talked a little bit about their restaurant, but the very historic hotel that you stayed at. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what makes it a great place to stay?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, again, going back to the Chirgan Palace Kempinski Hotel, it is right on the Bosphorus. It is connected to the actual palace, so you can actually stay in the palace. You can dine in the palace. The Chugar, the restaurant I was talking about, is in the original palace, and then they have a newer wing that is connected to. And my favorite thing, I always say, a day on the water is better than a bad day on the water is better than a good day almost anywhere else. I love being on the water, and it has the room that I was in faced out on the waterway, on the Bosphorus, and I would just sit on my balcony and watch the boats go by, the ships and the boats. You'd see these cargo ships making their way probably overseas somewhere. You'd see the ferries going back and forth. You get into the evening, you get the party boats going by, the music and the dancing, whatever. And you don't even have to move an inch. You can just sit there. You can get some room service, sit there, and just watch Europe and Asia, happen at the same time. So it really is a favorite hotel of mine. I stayed there. They had a recent renovation that completely reinvented the hotel, to be honest, in Ottoman tones and bringing back this classic heritage. I stayed there before the renovation. Lovely hotel at the time. Stay there now post renovation. It's really a reinvented space. It's a beautiful place. So
Very cool. Now, curious, because it is I drove by it, and it was a very nice, very historic, beautiful hotel. How much a night are you looking at there?
Istanbul is one of the more affordable cities at the moment in the world to travel. So you might be looking at, I don't know if you're looking it up right now. Maybe I would guess, the standard entry level room might be about €300 a night, something like that. It's not an inexpensive hotel, but it is a beautiful hotel and probably worth the price of entry. Definitely.
I'm sure it goes up and down, but I'm just checking for a random date in October.
Yeah,
and
let's check.
US dollars, it's running about $800 to $900.
Okay, that's more than I would have anticipated. Yeah. Well, in October,
Sheraton on the other end of the spectrum. I mean, that was about $275 a night, I think. So we've given people a couple of different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. That is actually a lot more than I would have thought. But anyway, I still think it's worth if you have the budget, if it's in your budget to stay, it is a place that we talk about 4 or 5 star. Sometimes it can be anywhere in the world, and they're kind of the same. This is not a place that feels like the same kind of hotel you're going to find it. So yeah.
Any final tips, can't misses for Istanbul?
You know what? I'm gonna reserve that for the bonus episode. I would say, well, let me just tease it a little. Just I will say, we're going to talk about Chia Sofrasi, this restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants in the world. It is on the Anatolian side, on the Asian side, and it is surrounded by a local market, blocks and blocks and blocks of this local market. And I guess I will, as my final thought, say, go to this market. Especially when you're going to Chia Sofrasi, go to this market. I had an experience where I went into a shop. Nobody spoke English. We communicated through our translation apps on our phone, and just really interesting people working there. And they just kept handing food over the counter to me. In front of me, a guy was handing me cheese. Behind me, a guy was handing me olives. Another guy was handing me baklava. You could even pause for a minute because you were constantly being handed a new thing to try, and everything was super fresh, local, delicious. So I'll say the market in Ketakoi is my my final recommendation, and we will in the bonus episode talk about the restaurant there that I love so much. What about you? What's your final thought?
I'm going to throw in two kind of quirky, well, not one quirky and one not so quirky. Can't miss.
All right.
The quirky one is there is a local clothing shop that does like men's suits and shirts and things that they were trying to randomly pick a name that they thought would sound so sophisticated.
Yep.
So they landed on former Canadian Prime Minister, a guy who I actually used to work with, Paul Martin. They've named their store Paul Martin Canada, and they have this whole line of Paul Martin Canada themed clothing that based on the Canadian Prime Minister that he had no idea about. He doesn't receive any of the revenues from Paul Martin Canada, but if you're a Canadian, you gotta go check that out.
Yeah,
and,
you gotta go to the
I tried to buy him a shirt when I was
store,
there.
of course. Yeah,
yeah. They were unfortunately closed the day we were there. I was trying to get him a shirt to send over his way, but no luck there. But also, Istanbul has probably one of the best airport lounges that I've been to in the world. If you've got like number of credit cards come with those premium plaza lounge access around the world, and as far as the premium plaza lounge network goes, the IGA lounge in Istanbul airport, highly recommend. Like, get to the airport early, go spend some time there. They've got it's got its own duty-free shop, it's got its own museum, massage, pool tables, areas for kids, great food, a view out over the rest of the airport. It is massive, and one of the top airport lounges within that premium plaza lounge network. So
fantastic. And I mean, talking about amazing lounges, I will put a plug in for the Turkish Airlines lounge because at the new airport they built this massive new Ataturk airport. It's going to be one of the great hubs in the world. The Turkish Airlines lounge is really, you've got Star Alliance status, and I have been privileged enough to use that lounge, and they actually have, if you are traveling in a certain class of service and you have a long enough layover, I think it's 4+ hours you have to have, you can actually they have little bedrooms. You can actually go with beds and TVs, and you can go out, have a drink, have a flatbread or whatever, go back and take a nap, and then you feel kind of rested, ready to go for your trip. So that is, I'm glad you brought that up because that is one of the world's great airports. Just really an amazing airport. And I will say, I looked up the Türkenpath. The rates do come down a little bit if you go January, February. It's a little bit, maybe $500 a night in that season, kind of in the low season. But it is a great city. So much to do. Again, we could talk for many hours and not run out of things to talk about. But I've really enjoyed talking Istanbul with you, David.
Me too, Tim. And I know we're going to be back later this week with a bonus episode with a little bit more on Istanbul, talking about your favorite restaurant in the city. We've teased it a little bit here, but a bit more of a deep dive into why you loved it and what that's all about. And also a little bit more on the Turkish bath experience and what you can expect there. And
yes,
I'll talk about a couple of options that you can look at if you want to try that out in the city as well.
Sounds good. Thanks again, David.
Thanks, Tim.
Talk to you soon.